Welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Today, another exciting show, another exciting guest. Jesus, this is season 5, and I'm like truly overwhelmed. I mean, we're going into our 4th season. Clearly, right now with season 5, we've already launched over 60 outstanding guests with more to come. And everyone is unique in their stories of that beast mindset and how they're kind of elevating our minds, the way we think, to come into a higher level of consciousness. So with that word consciousness, it's amazing how the universe does stuff. I was looking at TikTok, which I usually don't do. And all of a sudden, this young man's message came across. And it had to do with dreaming while you're awake. And we all do that to some degree, but I think we don't really recognize that we're doing it. I think we do it in phases, and he can correct me on this. He's only 25, so he's pretty knowledgeable, but he can correct me if I'm wrong. We dream all the time, even when we're manifesting, when I'm just sitting at my desk thinking about something, but it goes deeper than that. And I was asking myself before I was introduced to him, how deep can it actually get? How deep can I take a daytime dream or a manifestation in my mind? How deep can I go with it? How far can I travel? Because we know that thought travels. We put it out there. We don't know where it goes. The universe is infinity. It may go to my higher self. It may go beyond that. I watch Loki. I get all the symbolic messages. But like I said, the universe has a way of putting people in your space at the right time to deliver a message or to give you clarification on what I was already thinking. So could it be that the young man and me were both thinking connection? We're getting ready to find all that out, because today on the show, we got a young man that has definitely and is one of the greatest innovators of our time with thought processing and the ability to teach people how to take their dreams during the daytime, manifestation, whatever you want to call it, to a higher degree. And he's going to tell us how all that came about. Welcome to the show, Ethan Frice. Did I get the last name right?
Thank you so much.
Ethan, you're 25 years old. Before we get into what you just launched, tell the viewers a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I'm 25. I'm autistic, which has been a huge thing I've struggled with, but I've been coming to learn that it is my best superpower that I possibly have. While I can't do algebra really well, there are some topics in life that I understand in a way I feel most other people cannot.
When you talk about the situation, is the artistic side of you,
autistic.
Autistic.
Yes, sir.
There had to be some challenges for you growing up. You're 25. What were some of those challenges that you was met with? It was probably more from people around your age bracket. They clearly don't understand the gift that you have.
Yeah, a lot of people weren't nice to me when I was young, and I think a huge section of that was my lack of understanding of social interaction. Mm-hmm. By the time I hit 13 or 14, I found a love for behavioral psychology. I noticed before this love that people were really predictable after a while. You see the same thing in different people across all kinds of situations. So as I started to learn more about behavioral psychology, little tells people give. They like to scratch the back of their neck when they lie to you. They do little eyebrow raises. It can be so subtle, but everybody's universal. That was the one thing that has skyrocketed me into my potential, the ability to interact with people, understand kind of how they work. If you have autism, I highly recommend learning about psychology. It is a game changer.
What kind of studies did you do to determine people's behavior? Like you mentioned, somebody scratched the back of their neck. They're more likely to lie. I know we have a creative side of the brain and another side of the brain. One side goes into your creative side, which might mean you're thinking one way, and then another side will will register something else. And then you mentioned the eyebrow. How did you determine these factors? And this is exactly what people were that they all had in common. They were all doing the same thing, and it was registering it as the same thing that you had detected.
So it all started in sixth grade. I did a book report on something called micro expressions. Everybody does them. They are universal to everybody unless they're a psychopath or something. It takes a very extreme condition to bring people out of this universal expression.
Mm-hmm.
And just doing that book report alone and going up in front of the class and seeing people do the eyebrow things, the little smirks, a smirk on the right side versus the left can mean something completely different. I started seeing it and it worked like clockwork in my mind compared to anything else I had learned. And after that, I started reading medical case studies. I had to pull out notes and write down what do these words mean in the sentence. I had to go learn the words so I could understand the sentence. And it was something that almost became obsessive for me for a long time. But looking back now, I haven't been in a situation this last year where I didn't understand what was happening. And that has been huge, especially on the business side.
When you oh my goodness. Now, Ethan, you got me wondering about my expressions here. So what does it mean if a smirk is on the right or a smirk is on the left?
Well, it all really depends on the context of the situation. But like, for example, if you weren't facing a camera, if you were actually talking to me in person, you can gauge somebody's interest by where they're pointing their feet, if they're crossing their legs, the openness of their body. Like you're very comfortable and relaxed and engaged in the conversation. You can tell just by your body language. But in person, it's different. If someone's pointing their feet towards you, if their legs are spread, open, crossed over, it means all different kinds of things about how they're feeling, if they're interested in you, if you're intimidating them. It's very neat stuff.
Tell me about your mom and dad. You're definitely a unique personality. What's your family structure like?
So my dad's is kind of a hard ass in a way, but in a really good kind of way. He's the kind of dude, he can take pain meds for a prescription, of course, and it doesn't work on him. Nothing works on this guy. He is as stubborn as they come, but with love. And my mother is the nicest person I've ever met. It does not matter if you're wearing 10 layers of clothes. If you're cold, she will give you the shirt off of her back.
Mm-hmm.
She works at a foster care adoption agency. She does all the bookkeeping and helps kids get into homes. So when I was young, I had three foster siblings, and then for a while we had five.
Wow.
And she has a very open heart, something I think she passed down to me, which I'm extremely grateful for. But seriously, like the nicest person I've ever met, and all of my friends would vouch as well.
Now let's go back a minute. You're starting to sound a little bit like Hannibal Lecter too, which is really one of my favorite movies. I mean, I love all the Hannibal series. But you mentioned something that came from the Hannibal thing when you talked about the different expressions that are universal, but you also indicated that it's different when you're dealing with a psychopath. How was that different? Do they teach themselves how to not do they learn the signs that you're talking about and they try to erase it? Like, how do you determine that factor?
That's a good question and something I couldn't answer well, but your body will give you indications that something is off with the person way before your mind knows it. I mean, if you ever talked to someone and felt weirdly uncomfortable,
Yeah.
your heart starts pumping, things start happening, and you're kind of like, why are they making me feel this way? I like to call that the lizard brain. It's pure instinct. Your subconscious will pick up on these things so much faster than you consciously will.
Hmm.
And that's, when I can't read somebody, I usually assume like they are very, very different. It doesn't mean they're a psychopath, but the way they work is completely different than normal people. Some of the smartest people I met, I've never been able to get a gauge on how they're feeling, how they're acting. It's completely different than the everyday person. It's such a neat area of science.
Ethan, sounds like you really, really like science. What is it about science that really amplifies you and keeps you in that beast frame of mind versus, like mathematics, history, why science and why this particular area?
There's always more to learn with science, and that's what I love about it so much. I think there is so much in this world that we have not discovered, like how you talked about, our thoughts connecting, everything is vibrating matter, and we live in a world of electromagnetic fields. And who's to, our thoughts are on that same spectrum.
Hmm.
Who's to say they're not connecting when we can't see it?
Right.
It is such a mystery, and I love solving problems and I love figuring things out. So that is my bread and butter. Like, think about when you're driving in traffic or you're at this grocery store and you look at someone and they turn their head really quick and make direct eye contact with you, or you do it to someone else.
Yeah.
I think that is, thoughts leave our head and things connect far beyond what we can see with our own eyes.
Okay. Sounds like me and you are watching the same movies, like
I think so.
Loki and the Marvel series and all that kind of stuff. It's funny. I just talked to somebody about um thought pathways and vibrational energy. We talk about that a lot on my shows. You're 25 years old. How many people around your age bracket are now starting to become aware of, I'm gonna call it what it is. We do have the ability to generate vibrational frequency and magnetic frequencies and this whole frequency spectrum like you're talking about. But my thing to you is, why do you think that there's such a opening and willingness of this generation accepting that when it was hidden from our generation, even though they were studying it, quote unquote, black ops studies, but they knew it existed. The government knew it existed a long time ago. So why you think now with such people are vibrating and understanding this and taking it more seriously?
Well, I think this stuff can only be hidden for so long. What you're talking about with the government researching it, stuff like the gateway process,
Right.
proving our minds are so malleable to pure frequency. You can change the way people feel. You can replicate so many different things just by playing frequencies on the correct sides of the head, slightly different frequencies. That is the base level of what I've created. The base science was studied by the government in the late 80s, and because of the potential to help, I think it's just been buried, but secrets cannot stay secret forever. These files declassified in the late 90s, early 2000s, and people all over the internet talk about them. And I think it's just hitting points where we're seeing pharmaceutical meds are worse for you than helpful in most cases. And most of this can be done with vibrations alone. So much of your physical brain can change from just getting the right frequencies and vibrations.
Mm-hmm.
It would be crazy if it stayed under wraps for another 30 years. I wouldn't believe it.
With the power of the internet and so many people following you and so many people are gravitating to your algorithms, that's a clear indication that you can't keep it under wraps. But with all the attention now with you and your business, which we'll talk about in a minute, what new information has come to you that you already kind of knew about, but now it's been validated? Like, what are some of the three key components that actually helped you to even make your business and your theory better?
So the first thing that happened to me when I was young, I lived through a shooting. It messed me up really bad. I was one of the first people under 18 to do some of the experimental therapies with ketamine and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not living like I wanted to. I spent years on meds, seeing therapists, the whole works. And I actually listened to the Gateway tapes, the original CIA study on the frequencies. A business mentor of mine said, listen to these. They really helped me. I think they'll help you. And after about 2 months, I woke up one day and I realized like most of my PTSD symptoms are gone. I'm not waking up freaked out. I'm not having crazy dreams. Um, I can't give you three good options because that's like three in one. I mean,
Right.
I don't know what it did to me, but I'm living again. For the last year, I've not woken up freaked out. I haven't had a nightmare. It's not even something I think about. The split is so large, I don't feel like I'm the person that went through that anymore. And that was just from listening to frequency. Nothing I even gravitated towards. I want this to help me with my PTSD. It happened on its own.
You mentioned you lived through a shot. Did you get shot by somebody or you
No,
witnessed?
I watched a ton of people stop breathing. So it really messed me up. I was only 16 when it happened. I was too young for that, Our minds are not built for that kind of trauma, and especially when you're growing up, our brain makes patterns, and those patterns were strong.
How was you exposed to that?
Wrong place at the wrong time. I was at a friend's house doing a barbecue with his mom in South LA, and the neighbors were kind of having a party outside, and they drove right by.
Now you mentioned this is, I hate to say it, Ethan, but this is crazy. You listen to government files of vibrational frequencies. How did the guy that mentored you, how did he know about these classified documents and that they would help him out before he gave it to you? What was his situation? He was your mentor. How did he come across this technology?
Yeah, so in the 80s, the CIA outsourced most of the work to Stanford and a company called the Monroe Institute, who created the gateway tapes, the frequency files.
Mhm.
Now, while a lot of that was classified, the Monroe Institute would still take in the public to learn about the frequencies to try out their tapes. It was a different set compared to what the CIA was using and trying to figure out how can we spy on people with this. This was more a tamed down set for the public. He went there in person, listened to all of these tapes at the recommendation of someone else,
Mhm.
and took home the cassettes. So we were getting dinner. I've started 5 businesses and they kept failing. It was always something so far outside of my control. I felt cursed. And I'm sitting here talking to him saying, I don't know what to do anymore. I will never give up, but I'm super discouraged. And he said, you need to listen to these tapes. They changed my life. He said, I'm going to sound a little crazy, but I went into a full kind of dream and I was talking to things. They explained stuff about me that gave me enough or gave him enough clarity to kind of get back on his feet and keep trying. And he said, after listening to those tapes, everything started working. I didn't really believe the guy. He's a triple CEO. So I'm driving home kind of bargaining with myself, thinking, he's not crazy. I know he's not crazy. I gave it a shot. I was really skeptical and I listened every night for 2 weeks. And sometime in that second week, what happened to him happened to me. It was like I left like my body. I was like full on in a dream state, but it felt as real as talking to you right now.
Mhm.
And I think just something about seeing that and experiencing it for yourself, it's so hard to deny that it's not real. It does not feel like something in your head. It is such a mind-bending experience, and that alone just made me believe that there is so much more to this world that we can see. And the peace of mind you get from that, it makes you think everything's less random. Maybe all of these failures have happened for a reason.
Mhm.
And looking back a year ago, that was most definitely the case. All of these businesses that crashed and burned for me, it was like university. While I didn't get paid a lot, it was the most valuable time I've ever experienced in my life.
It almost sounds like that you realize that maybe you was living almost like we live in almost like an avatar type state, that we, once we leave this part of us, this shell, we begin to see the avatar, but we control the avatar, so to speak, which is us. And I guess leaving that state, you begin, because you mentioned him talking to getting information. Was he getting information from himself? Because now clairvoyancy is a lot better for him because he's not encased in all of this chaos. Is that what happened to you? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I don't know. There's not words that humanity's created to describe uh, that experience, but what I can tell you is almost like my intuition is strong, so much stronger than it ever has been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I'll feel drawn to do something, to go talk to somebody. And I was just at a conference showing off my product, Septisync, and I walked up to this guy. It felt, give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm getting phone calls. So I walked up to this guy. I started talking to him. I just had a really good feeling to talk to this dude. He ended up being a huge investor. While we're not taking investments, this dude's already linking me up with people who are interested in buying my company. And we're only a few weeks old. Out of a room of 300 people, I felt drawn to talk to one individual who, could retire me if everything plays out right. And I didn't ever have feelings like that before I had this experience with the gateway tapes. They're
Right.
they're truly amazing.
You mentioned we mentioned the gateway tapes quite often here. Um, are the tapes available online? Like, say if somebody wanted to have at least a insight of what you experience. And we'll get to the business in a minute. This all makes sense as we get ready to close out. A lot of people, I tell people, this is how I tell people: you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink unless it's thirsty. So, in order for people to experience at least a sample of what, because right now they're going to be like, we're skeptical. We got to see. How valuable is it for someone to start with that particular file to understand the experience that you've got? And is those files available for people just to even look at and read themselves?
So the files are available. Listening to the audio itself, I can't really give a way to get it for free because I'm a competitor to them. That would look very bad.
Okay.
However, they are out there. They are out there. I know tons of people who have listened to them without paying, but if you
Mhm.
can't afford the $5,000 to pay them in Row Institute, I highly recommend it. They seem to be very good people. I think the more skeptical you go in, the stronger your experience is going to be. The excitement of knowing what might happen to you is going to keep you from, body asleep, mind awake, which seems to be what these frequencies do. You can't be asleep while you're excited. So I feel like the more skeptical people are the ones that are going to be hit the hardest, just like I was. I thought the whole thing was BS. And it took me 2 days to process the 30-minute like dream that I had. It was one of the more intense things I've ever experienced in my life.
You reminded me of a moment in Doctor Strange where she took his body out of the physical into the astral plane, and he started to experience all of these. You might We would call it, if you don't know what it is, I guess, um, trips. The LSD type trips where he was seeing. But then I noticed that he mastered it, and his body was sleeping. He was still reading. What was at least some of the things that you experienced yourself as you went into this state?
So it was really trippy. Again, it was just like being in a dream, but there were like things that there's things there. They'll talk to you. It's not like a conversation you and I have. There's not words for this, but I'll do my best. But imagine like you're in a place of darkness and there's just a light in the distance. Like it's the best way I can word it is like a yellow light, kind of like the sun. And these things started conversing with me. It's the only time this has ever happened in my life. I've never been able to replicate it again. It was a one-off. But it told me things. It said, your purpose here is to teach people about this. Take a leap of faith for 1 year and you will not recognize your life a year from now.
Wow.
So it told me a couple things. I asked, how do I do this? And it said, you have a megaphone in your pocket. That is why I started my TikTok and pretty much only spoke about the gateway tapes. And it told me a few other things. It said, you were built in a way where you have to see it to believe it. So here's a set of things that'll happen to you in the next few months. It was large things like you're going to get forcefully ripped from where you live. A close family member will die. She'll leave you with, it said she as well. She will leave you with just enough to start this new chapter of your life. I came out of it. It was intense, but I didn't fully believe it until these things that it told me actually started happening. I got forcefully ripped from where I lived. My healthy aunt passed away really suddenly. I had just failed a business. She left me enough money to buy a car and left me her phone, which has a 4K camera, which I've used for every single video I've ever made.
Mm.
And there was four more things after that that were very specific, and they've all happened. It still bends my mind thinking about it a year later.
Did
I can't I can't wrap my head around it. It keeps me up at night still.
people will be like this. Some people will resonate, and some people won't. That's just the
Oh,
bottom
of
line.
course.
Yeah. Some people will, some people won't. I'm not. I believe you 100%. The thing that now questions me, and I'm sorry about the loss of your aunt, but you also indicated your path and your journey. Has the support group, because some people, let's be real, some people say he's crazy.
Oh, of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
How is your support group been so far since the loss of your aunt and so forth and so forth? How has it gotten stronger, or has, as far as family wise, or has it gotten more stronger entrepreneur wise?
Yeah, a little bit of both. that it really brought the whole family together. People that didn't normally interact were, we were all eating meals together, visiting our aunt. She lived in my other aunt's living room for her last couple days, so we all flew down there and just hung out, and that was really nice. It was really nice, but starting to see these things happen, thinking of the last things that she told me before she passed away resonated exactly with what happened to me in the Gateway experience. It told me, it said, this individual's God, so to speak, will give them instructions on what to do. And in some of her last waking hours, she changed her will and wrote me into it,
Hmm.
leaving me all of the stuff. I mean, it's bizarre, and it's something people have to try to believe for themselves. Since I started talking about the Gateway experience on TikTok, I've probably gotten a million people to try it and have these incredible results. It's something you can't deny when so many people experience it. It just is so out there. I don't blame people for being skeptical. I think that's the most healthy thing you could do in these kinds of situations.
So let's go deeper a little bit before we wrap up, because I know your time is, so many people are calling you. I appreciate you really taking time to bless me to come on my show and share such a beautiful experience, and not just an experience, your experience. Tell me about the business. How did all this come about, and what does it entail?
So this is where it gets cool. 2 months ago, I had a dream where I was like spoon-fed the instructions on how to create this technology. It wasn't the idea given to me. It was everything I needed. I woke up, somehow remembered all of these little details, and I wrote them all down. I put everything into my computer and it worked. So how it works is, this is the world's first version of septoneural brainwave entrainment. The gateway process uses something called a binaural beat. They use one frequency in one ear and a slightly different one in the other, and that causes your brainwaves to start dancing. So if I played 9 hertz in your left ear and 11 hertz in your right ear, your brain will vibrate at 2 hertz, the difference of the two frequencies. Your brain vibrates at 2 hertz when you're sleeping. So that is a very good way to trick the brain into sleep. Nobody's ever been able to stack more than 2 binaural beats together. I'm the world's first to put 7 together. 6 of them attack every sleep center of the brain to our knowledge. We do not know how this works yet, and it's actually a mystery why it works. We're figuring out a lot as we go.
Right.
6 of these frequencies attack every sleep center of the brain, and one of them focuses right on the frontal lobe, responsible for decision making and, critical thinking, a very important part of the brain you want to turn off when you sleep.
Right.
And then every 5 minutes for 30 seconds, I blast 30 hertz through the ears. It's so quiet you can't hear it. That stimulates the mind, but not the body, keeping your mind completely awake as you are talking to me right now, but your body will be fully asleep and in sleep paralysis. After about 15 minutes, according to our EEG data, you'll start dreaming while you're awake. You'll be seeing things, not in your mind, but on the back of your eyelids. So there's a medical condition called aphantasia. People cannot visualize anything in their mind. It's words only. They don't see images. They're claiming that they're getting mental sight for the first time. Their imagination is becoming active.
Mm-hmm.
It works on deaf people. We've tested it on one fully deaf individual. She took the power banks out of her hearing implants
Yeah.
and had a crazy experience. She got the same experience as other people with hearing. Septisync should rely on audio processing to work these frequencies out. We have no idea why it works on deaf people. At this conference I was at, there was a 74-year-old deaf man, half deaf in one ear, 3/4 deaf in the other. I had him take out his hearing aids and try. It's been 5 days and he has not put his hearing aids back in. He can hear better. He said his hand tremors are going down. Someone this morning left a review saying their heart palpitations are going down. It's doing these incredible things and we don't understand a thing about it. It's just so exciting.
Why do you think you was given this technology information? And where do you think
I,
it came from? Do you think it came from extraterrestrials, or what? How do you think this information was given to you? But more importantly, could it be, I'm getting ready to do what you said, could it be you telling yourself in the future, hey, you need to do this?
it could be. Don't know anything about how the universe works. I'm Muslim. Muslims believe that when you sleep, your soul leaves your body and goes somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think happened to me. I think I needed to get these instructions to create this, and I would like to hope that it's because I have a very soft heart. I got that from my mom. I love helping people so much. So 10% of all of our profits we donate to people directly to citizens in Gaza, moms, children, make sure they have meals to eat, or we go out
Smart.
and buy food for the homeless. And I don't think this would have happened if I didn't become this much of a loving person. All of the business failures, people screwing me over, the years in sales kind of made me get bitter towards people. So when I moved up to Oregon, I got a job at an old person's home and just tried to make their lives happy. They kind of taught me how to love people again. And it was like a light switch flipped on as soon as I was out helping people, buying homeless people meals again, back to my normal self
Yeah.
was when I had this dream. You know, I believe things happen in divine timing. And for me, I think that's exactly what this was. I had to be the right person before this would have happened.
Mm, that's really smart the way you say it. And you know what? My hat's off to you.
Oh, thank you.
I saw what you do for people. You know, you take your time, what little bit of money, you literally go out and you feed people. You take care of people and don't ask for anything in return. Clearly you got to make money to do what you're doing, and I understand that. Is this process, is it available now? I know you're in the trial stages, but is it available now for people? How much is this going to cost? How can they participate in this in this new venture, this new
Yeah,
technology you're
so
creating?
it's completely open to the public. If you just Google SeptaSync, it pops right up on our website. The company's called Viria. Now, pricing, I want anybody to be able to afford help. And if this can help them, anybody should have access. So I made it $10.
Hmm,
We're selling so many tapes. It's cheaper than a meal. So people aren't even giving much thought into the purchase. And now that we have some idea that this is doing some insane things that could be huge in the medical world,
right.
we have to up the prices a little bit, which I'm sad about. We need around $3 million to get a round of clinical testing and research. But I feel like I've struck in a good balance. I've made 8 tapes so far. I have so many more on the way, and it's going to be either $5 a month or $45 one time for everything I've made and everything I will make. While profits are important in this world, it is not what I'm chasing. Our nearest competitors are $1,000.
Yeah.
So we're trying to make it in a way where anybody can have access almost any time that they need it.
We're going to make sure that happens because at 25 years old, a lot of people don't think like you. And you know what I liked what you just said? It's not about the profits. I mean, it is in a sense, but you see clearly, your mind has been clearly transformed to 1 minute you're getting pissed on by humanity, losing yourself, and through a series of unfortunate situations, you've been given a gift to help people through vibrational frequencies, which is now just as big as the study of quantum physics, if not on the same platform. Um, Tell the people how to spell that because I hear it the spectrum, but how do you spell it so they can look for it?
Yeah, it's SEPTASYNC. SEPTA like seven, sync like syncing up. So the idea behind the science is it synchronizes your brain hemispheres. They talk to each other in ways they wouldn't naturally. So 7 sets of 2 frequencies and syncing, septa sync.
Before we wrap up, what are the first things that people would notice, and how many series do they have to do to I guess everybody will experience something at different times, but when they purchase these tapes, I'm pretty sure there's a number. Started with number one, start with number two, and so forth. When would they start to see a transformation in themselves?
Pretty quick actually. So the gateway tapes, like I said, uses 2, maybe 4 frequencies tops. Almost every review of people that have tried both say SeptaSync is much more potent, and it's because of the added frequencies that are working together. So I guess a long story short for that is it's pretty immediate. Your body will fall asleep quick. And for the people that don't have results, I tell them drink a cup of coffee, do it in the morning when you're really energized, and watch your body fall asleep. Excuse me. Our our EEG data shows within 1.5 minutes on average, people's bodies are turning off. Not everybody dreams while they're awake. That might take a little bit of practice, but the physical effects are undeniable. At this medical conference, we got to test it on 98 people. 97 of the 98 said it worked. So we had a 99% success rate. One guy said this didn't do anything for me. I call that, amazing.
Right. Let me ask one more question here. You mentioned something that scares me, which is called sleep paralysis. What if you get into these sleep realms and go to the distance that you traveled, and for some encounter, I mean, because get real, if you're going that deep in thought, and everybody processes different things when they dream in, what if you have somebody that all of a sudden you get so deep into this that you start to unwaken childhood traumas, and are there any dangers for this where you might not wake up? Have you guys experienced any of that, and is that likely to happen? I know you can't really answer that full on, but I'm pretty sure that's why you guys need research, because what if you go so deep into the sleep realm that you do wind up suffering sleep paralysis and unfortunately can't come back?
Well, that's the beauty of it, is your mind will stay awake the whole time, as clear as you are talking to me right now. So when you go into REM sleep, your bodies produce a chemical that paralyzes your muscles. That is my thoughts on what's happening.
Right.
When you wake up and you're in sleep paralysis, you just have to think about it enough. Move my fingers, move my hand, move my arms. You have to move up in stages. But because you're fully cognizant, it's a lot easier to just get up and walk off. You're not ever losing that mental side. Now, as for the working through traumas, I have had a lot of reviews of people talking about this, and what they're saying is because the body is turning off, your emotional stimulus is lessened so much, you can think about these things that would normally cause you fear, anxiety, a racing heart without the bodily effects. To me, I think this could be a much more effective way to work through your traumas, of course, with clinical testing and scientific research, but right now, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing we have going for us is turning off the body, but allowing yourself to still think through these problems. You'll have no, you'll have a much lessened physical response to how you normally would when you work through your trauma. Like I remember with my PTSD, the therapist was my least favorite visit because I'd leave, my heart's racing, I was looking around, I didn't
Yeah.
feel safe. But working through that when your body's not doing that is 10 times easier. The way it's worked wonders for me and other people is what's so exciting.
Should somebody be, we're almost done. Um, should somebody supervise you as you undergoing these steps?
Personally, I don't think so. I think the body will be so calm. You might come out of it feeling a little bit weird, but at the end of the day, this is technology that's been around a long time. Well,
Right.
the base level of what Septisync does has been around a long time and has been shown to have no adverse effects. There's not medical risks. I still will tell people if you have any medical condition, consult your doctor first, be safe. But with how long this has been out and how little bad things have happened to people, I think it's totally safe to do it on your own. I just don't do it while you're driving. Lay down, no heavy machinery.
Yeah. You know what, Ethan, I'm going to definitely try it and give my viewers a first encounter of it, because I've seen the reviews. I don't question it. Um, I don't think that you're you're not here to harm people. I can already see that, and I appreciate the fact that you've been given the gift to bring awareness to it. I mean, we need to start thinking that our bodies can do a lot of things. Our brain can do a lot of things, and you're definitely bringing attention to it. My hats off to you. Once again, how can the viewers reach out to you to know more about your product and what you're doing?
Yeah, so my socials everywhere is just my name. I'm on Instagram and TikTok under Ethan Frice. But if you do want to read more about Septisync, we have articles on the website. We have FAQ. The website is Virya, vir-ya.com. But if you Google Septisync, that's the first thing that pops up.
Ethan, thank you so much for coming on. Like you said, you'll be sitting here next time, and we're going to really go deeper, because we can go deep for another hour. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another, and I do mean another, exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show.